This video is going to discuss configuring an Algo-Finder on Vantage Signals. Algo-Finder is a brute force back testing engine that users can load up hundreds, thousands, even millions of combinations at a time and test them in a single click. The same as with algorithms, you can choose if you want to test a bull or a bear algorithm. With bear algos, greater losses is better performance. Let's create a new Algo-Finder here. There are 3 tabs. The Core tab maintains common configuration, the Indicator tab is where we configure our indicators and their ranges for testing, and lastly a Backtest tab for defining your backtest dates and scoping. First we name our Algo-Finder whatever we want. We choose a market such as global, derivatives, or a specific exchange. We can select multiple markets, and we will test them all. We can specify one or more assets as well, which would all be checked against the markets and indicators configured. The tracking interval or TI period is for our post-performance reporting and also how we collect platform organic signals from signal performance metrics. These fields are optional, we can configure up to 3 or as little as 0. For each tracking interval, we run signal validation to track the algorithm's performance this many minutes after each signal. The Algo-Finder uses data from each TI period to determine the quality of each algorithm and enable users to filter results based on an array of data at each TI period. In this config we will check the market 1 hour, 3 hours and 6 hours after each signal and algo flags during the tests. On private servers, the number of workers is based on the CPUs available. Our lab servers are currently limited to 9 workers each. Soon we will be bringing distributed compute to the production platform, and users will be able to select from various compute hives to queue their jobs. The cooldown specifies how long we need to wait after a signal before we will listen for another signal. This prevents machine gun-fired signals. The minimum time you can configure your cooldown to is the same value as your highest TI interval. The threshold specifies that we can require all the conditions of all the indicators to be true 1 or more times before we actually send a flag. If we configure this with the number 1, then the first moment all indicators simultaneously match their criteria, we will register a signal, and we will start tracking the signal's performance. All indicators would have to be true this many polling intervals in a row before we send a signal. We can set a minimum and maximum value, and then set a step value. So if I specify 1 through 10 here with 1-minute steps, we will check 1, 2, 3 for all the way up to 10. If we change step to 2, we would check every 2 like 1, 3, 5, 7 and so on. The interval we specify below is the polling interval, or how frequently we test the market for all the conditions specified in each algorithm. If we choose intelligent intervals, we will automatically test using the shortest candle length for each algorithm combination we test. Enabling intelligent interval is likely to improve your back-test performance significantly, and is recommended if you use an array of various candle lengths in your tests. This section below is for signal dependencies. I can create an algorithm to track Bitcoin for example, and then only allow this algorithm to signal if the Bitcoin algorithm has or has not passed a flag in a certain amount of time. See our video on configuring signal dependencies for more details on using dependencies. With all our common configuration completed, now we can configure what indicators we want to have tested. We have a complete FAQ section on configuring and using our indicators. The configurations are the same between algorithms and an Algo-Finder with the exception that the Algo-Finder takes ranges of values instead of single values, enabling users to create large batch jobs of every possible combination of the values specified, with just a few clicks. Here we have the Stutch RSI indicator. We can specify lesser than or greater than the criteria we set. Here we want to see if the value goes to or below 0, 10, 20, 30 and 40, because we are checking from 0 to 40 in steps of 10. We don't need to use these steps. We can also just specify the values down here in a comma delimited list. If you configure step values and comma delimited values, make sure they are not covering the same numbers to prevent redundant testing. We want this to look for an absolute number, but you could also have this sweep a range of % change values. Here we can choose if we want this indicator run against price, order books, order flow, market dominance, or social data. I am not going to discuss the full configuration here. see our video explainer on configuring Stutch RSI for more details on configuring this indicator. I just configured this the same as an algorithm, but here is where the AlgoFinder further empowers us. We can specify to test an array of candle lengths. We can use comma-delimited values in all these fields. So now that we have configured to test every combination of this indicator, let's see how many combinations we would be testing. You can click Calculate Combinations down here to recalculate after you add or make updates to indicators. We can see that we have 480 combinations that can be made from the values specified. Now let's add another indicator. I am just going to add EMA on the market depth ratio on a few market depths and candle lengths. Also, I can make this optional so that we can run the 480 combinations without this indicator and then with it. Making an indicator optional adds more combos the more indicators you have. So now let's see how many combinations we will be testing. 81,000 combinations. So you can see once we start adding indicators, these numbers add up and can go into millions or billions of combinations very fast. To control the size of your tests, we recommend starting with less indicators and then finding optimal configurations for each one so that they have smaller spreads of numbers and variations on each indicator, allowing you to add new indicators with wide ranges and repeat the process. Once you have a solid algorithm with little to no variations in each indicator in your AlgoFinder, you can test for an optimal stop loss and trailing stop loss for these indicators. These fields work the same as the indicators, with step value or comma-delimited inputs. Also, by the way, the signal hours down here at the bottom, this can specify what hours of the day that algorithms can signal. Maybe you only want to accept signals the first 3 hours of the trading day. All hours are specified 1 to 24, either comma-delimited or with dashes. All time is in GMT time, starting at 0000 GMT. You must also specify a date range to backtest as part of the primary configuration. I am just going to add a scope of dates real fast, but see our explainer video on AlgoFinder scoping for more details. This is another way to improve performance of your testing by starting with small range of dates, and then taking the successful results and testing them against larger ranges or different market conditions. Once we click Save, we can start this AlgoFinder. We now can manage it or view its performance from the management screen, which will be being updated in the near future. We can see the name and asset, the last time this AlgoFinder was run, how long it took to run, and the tests per minute or TPM that we witnessed during each scope and combined. We can look at the logs, see what's going on from the app, or the raw results will be printed every X number tests, based on the number of workers being used. In the corner we can click the hamburger menu to download algorithm performance reports in CSV format, or the download button to download the logs we see here. This video does not cover using the visual analyzer to review your AlgoFinder results. Please see our explainer video on using the Vantage Signals visual analyzer to learn more on how to easily review, save and deploy winning combinations from your AlgoFinders. This wraps up our video on configuring AlgoFinders. We hope you found it useful. Watch more of our explainer videos and review the user guide to power up your skills on the Vantage Signals platform.